Salve! Welcome to Latin at Home. Thanks for joining me. You're about to watch an introductory grammar video. I just want to let you know that you may not understand all the concepts that you're hearing in these videos, and that's okay. Don't worry about that. The idea of these videos is just for you to hear about these concepts, hear the technical vocabulary. You'll learn to understand it later as we go through our translation videos. So for right now, just take in what you can, ignore what you can't, and enjoy. In this video, we're going to be looking at the basics of Latin verbs. You can study Latin for years and still be learning new things about verbs. So we are just going to focus on two key points. Number one, the fact that verbs conjugate. We'll see what that means in just a moment. And number two, we want to learn the verb to be. It's extremely common. We want to be able to recognize it. So getting started with conjugating verbs, what does it mean that a verb conjugates? It means that it changes the ending in order to reflect the subject, voice, tense, and mood. Don't worry if you don't know what all four of those things represent. We're really just going to focus on subject and then on voice. Don't worry about what a mood is, and don't worry about differentiating tenses. So when it comes to the subject pronouns in English are I, you, he, she, and it, we, you all, and they. So the idea of a verb conjugating is that there's going to be a different ending for each one of these six subjects. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So for the active voice, if the subject is I, the ending on the verb is going to either be an O or an M. If the subject is you, the verb will end in an S. If the subject is he, she, or it, the verb will end in a T. If the subject is we, the verb will end in MUS. If the subject is you all, it will end in TIS. And if the subject is they, the verb will end in NT. So let's see a quick example of that. I have the verb to give down here. So we have das is you give. So it ends in an S. So we know that our subject is you give. We are also going to look at passive voice endings. And you might be questioning why, because in English, passive voice is very much discouraged. If you type in a sentence in the passive voice in a Word document, it will underline it and tell you to change it. However, in Latin, passive voice is extremely common, so we want to be familiar with it and its endings. So if the subject is I, the passive voice verb will end in R. Subject is you, RIS. He, she, or it, TUR. We, the verb ending will be MUR. For you all, the verb ending will be MINI. And for they, NTUR. And sticking with the same verb down here for an example, we have daris. So ris shows us that the subject is you. And if you need a refresher as to what the passive voice is, the passive voice is when the subject is not doing the verb. So if you look over at das, you give. You are the one doing the giving. Whereas with daris, you are given something by someone else. So someone else is really doing the giving, even though you are the subject. There is one tense that is really common that doesn't quite follow this pattern, so I'm going to show it to you very quickly. This is the perfect tense, and we're only going to consider the active voice for this one. So you can see, when you look at the third person singular, there's that T, and then for all the plurals, mus, tis, enti. So that follows it. That's fine. It's just that first person singular and second person singular, the I form and the you form, where it doesn't follow that. So it's just something to keep in mind. I'll give you an example over here with singulars. Very common verb here, facere, which is to do or to make. So feci, I did, or I made. Fecisti, you did or you made. And fecit, he did or he made. And that's really all we need to know about conjugating. Moving on to the verb esse. This is probably the most common verb in the language. So let's look at it in the present tense. Sum es est, which means I am, you are, and he, she, or it is. And in the plural, somos estis sunt, we are, you all are, or they are. So you can see it does follow this pattern, M, S, T, mus, tis, nt, and it's really just the root that's irregular. And that is our big focus, esse in the present tense. I'm going to show it to you in a few other tenses, but definitely you want to make sure that you can recognize these forms in the present tense. So we'll just take a quick look at the future. Ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritis, erunt. So that's the subject will be. So ero is I will be, ero is you will be, etc. And we'll look at it in two more tenses. The imperfect, eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratis, erant. And then the perfect tense, fui, fuisti, fuit, fuimus, fuistis, fuerunt. And the reason I put these together on the same slide is that they translate the same way into English. So that just is was or were. So eram and fui both mean I was. If you look at eramus and fuimus, that's we were, same thing. And that is all you need to know to get started with Latin verbs. So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Grazie attuale.